My car died on the old highway, and the only sign of life was hollow pines, a village permanently wrapped in fog and quiet legends. The locals were unsettling. Their stares lasted a bit too long, like they knew something I didn't. When I asked about a mechanic, the old innkeeper's voice trembled. Best wait until morning. No one goes out after dark. I just laughed it off, small-town superstitions. But the inn was full, so they gave me another option. The Hollow House, a mansion on the hill, empty for decades. It's not a place for guests, the innkeeper muttered, but it has a roof. The mansion stood like a dark giant against the night, its windows like empty eyes staring down at the fog-drenched town. The iron gates shrieked as I forced them open, and overgrown weeds whispered against my legs, almost like a warning, but curiosity won out. The front door groaned open into air thick with dust and rot. Cobwebs draped everything, and a grand staircase rose up like the skeleton of some ancient beast. I flicked on my phone's flashlight, laughing nervously as the shadows seemed to just swallow the light. Just one night, I told myself, just one night. I dropped my bag in the parlor. Faded portraits hung on cracked walls, their aristocratic faces staring down with eyes that felt too sharp, too real. One portrait grabbed my attention, a woman in a dark gown, her face pale and expressionless. The plate beneath read, Eleanor Blackwood, 1872. Her painted eyes unnerved me. They seemed to follow me wherever I moved. I managed to start a small fire, but the cold of the house was relentless, seeping right into my bones. Hours crawled by. I was dozing in an armchair when I heard it. The slow, deliberate creak of floorboards from upstairs. Someone was walking. I froze. I tried to convince myself it was just the old house settling, but then another step, and another. Too heavy, too steady. I aimed my phone light at the staircase. "Hello," I called out, my voice shaky. "Anyone there?" Only silence answered, but the air felt heavier, charged. Against all reason, I started climbing the stairs, each one groaning under my weight. The upstairs hallway was lined with more portraits, their eyes glinting in the dim light. Halfway down, I saw her again, the portrait of Eleanor Blackwood, but it was different. Her head was tilted slightly, her lips curved into the faintest smile. I blinked, trying to rationalize it, but my unease grew. Then I saw a door at the end of the hall, slightly ajar, a faint glow spilling out. Muffled whispers drifted through the crack, like a crowd was inside. "Hello?" I tried again, forcing a laugh. "Look, if this is some kind of prank." Before I could touch it, the door creaked open wider. The room was a dusty bedroom. The whisper stopped instantly. In the center stood a tall mirror, its surface fogged over. I stepped closer and wiped it with my sleeve. For a second, my own tired, nervous reflection stared back. Then, it smiled. A wide, sharp-toothed grin. I stumbled back, my heart pounding. I hadn't smiled. My reflection's eyes darkened until they were solid black. And then, it stepped forward. The glass rippled like water as the reflection pressed a pale hand through the surface, grasping for me. I bolted. I slammed the bedroom door shut and scrambled down the hall, not stopping until I was back in the parlor, panting. The fire was almost out. My backpack was where I'd left it, but the portrait above the fireplace. It had changed. Eleanor Blackwood was no longer sitting. She was standing, her hand outstretched, reaching for me. "Nope, I'm out," I muttered, grabbing my bag. I threw the front door open, but thick, choking fog billowed inside. Beyond the doorway, there was nothing. The town, the hill, the road all gone. Just endless white. I slammed the door shut, trembling. The house had trapped me. For hours, I searched for a way out. Windows were sealed shut, doors opened onto brick walls. Hallways twisted back on themselves. A maze that shifted when I wasn't looking. I swear I opened a door to the cellar and ended up in the attic. The whole time, I felt it. The house was watching me, waiting. By midnight, exhaustion was winning. I found myself back in the parlor and collapsed into the armchair. Despite my terror, I fell asleep. I woke to the sound of breathing. It wasn't mine. It was slow, shallow, and coming from right behind my chair. My entire body went rigid. Slowly, inch by inch, I turned my head. A woman was crouched there. Her face was deathly pale. Her black hair hung in damp strands. And her eyes, wide and unblinking, gleamed in the dim light. She smiled, her lips cracked and bleeding. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. I scrambled away. "Who are you?" But I already knew. Eleanor Blackwood. She rose in one fluid motion, her limbs too long, bending at impossible angles. "The house is hungry," she said, stalking toward me. "It always waits." I ran, crashing through a door, into a dining hall. A long table was set for a feast, but the food was a nightmare of raw, maggot-infested meat and moldy bread. As I stumbled past, candles lit themselves one by one, revealing figures seated at the table. They were corpses, their flesh gray, dressed in ancient clothes. Their heads turned in unison to stare at me, their jaws creaking open and silent. Horrifying laughter. I screamed and ran, not caring where I went, as long as it was away. But every hall led back to another nightmare. The whispers returned, louder now, crowding my mind. "Stay, join us." Forever. Somehow I ended up back at the mirror. My reflection was waiting, grinning wider than before. "This is your place now," it said, its voice my own, though my lips hadn't moved. "The house chose you." I grabbed a chair and hurled it at the mirror. It shattered into 1,000 pieces, but they didn't fall. They hung in the air, each shard reflecting Eleanor's grinning face. Then, the shards flew at me like knives. I shielded my face, and when I lowered my arms, the mirror was whole again, but my reflection was gone. The room was empty. Time lost all meaning in that house. There was no day, only an endless, watching night. I wandered, chased by shadows and whispers, growing weaker. Then I heard the laughter of children. It led me to a nursery. A cradle was rocking by itself. Inside lay a porcelain doll with a cracked face. It turned its head toward me. "Play with me," it said in a tiny voice. I fled, but the laughter followed, turning into a chorus of high-pitched screams. Finally, I collapsed back in the parlor. The fire was long dead. Above me, the portrait of Eleanor was smiling, her hand pressed against the canvas as if it were a thin veil. I wept, whispering, "It's not real. It's not real." But the house disagreed. The walls groaned. Black veins spread across the floorboards. The eyes in the portraits began to bleed. And from the cold fireplace, a pale clawed hand reached out, then another, and another. Figures crawled from every shadow, eyeless and silent, and they surrounded me. Eleanor's voice filled the room, coming from everywhere at once. "The house waited for you, Adrian, and now, you will never leave." The last thing I saw was her face, impossibly close, whispering into my ear as the darkness swallowed me whole. Thank you so much for joining me on this terrifying journey. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Stay safe out there.